Language and Linguistics, aka Liddy Language for Dummies, by me, Maddie, Keely, Manpreet, and Tori.
Our big idea is that all of the various linguistic approaches are forms of conveying and interpreting meaning in literature and dialogue.
Structuralism is highly scientific and objective, in which elements are defined by only their placement in broader systems, the use of signs or items in which they are created. Example of this would be defining an apple as sweet or crisp. The term dialogics, heavily defined by Bakhtin, overarchingly refers to all language that is addressed. Unlike their other linguistic approaches, dialogics departs from purely linguistic theories and adds a humanistic emphasis. This emphasis focuses on finding the meaning of language through the relationship of the audience and speaker or writer. Bakhtin counterposes monologic and dialogic literature through the basic understanding that in monological literature, characters exist solely to transmit the author's ideology and not anyone else's, thus giving the hero of the story all the power. Whereas the dialogical literature, in contrast, recognizes the multiplicity of perspectives and voices apparent in other characters as well. Furthermore, the polyphonic novel entails the author's voice as one among many, and all characters are given free speech to interact with one another's ideas. Another aspect of dialogics is heteroglossia, which emphasizes the combination of existing statements or speeches to create a new text. It also defines how a subject is not an object of address. And now on to Tori.
In Russian formalism, factors such as politics, social climate, and cultural effects are ignored in the critical process to understand the meaning of a text. They look at the text in a scientific way, not a social way, meaning form and structure are analyzed, not content. It is about how somebody says something rather than what is being said. Plot and story are differentiated in Russian formalism, as plot is how the story is being told, while the story is what is happening in the book. An example of this is Odin Dien Ivan Deshnovich, or One Day in the Life of Ivan Deshnovich. And as many critics applaud this book for herring portrayals of life in Gulag, a Russian formalist would applaud it for the ways that the experience is written. In the linguistic model, la langue is the community language, a social bond with speakers, and it has a set conventions and rules followed by everybody that speaks this language, grammar and syntax. La parole belongs to the individual. It is the language of someone's mind, occurs in speech or writing, the signifier and the signification. The signifier being the word and the signification being the meaning. The linguistic model is the model for Russian formalism. Language is signs. The syntagmatic signs is word by word, and it's a sequence of signs that when combined create meaning. Associative signs are meanings beyond the literal one. Next, Keely.
French structuralists view literature as a means of expressing the author's thoughts through distinguishable aspects of literature. These aspects contain histoire and discours. Histoire is a sequence of events, and it relates to the order of the events of the story and how the author wants the reader to interpret that and find the meaning in the text through that order. Discours is the rearrangement of a story for the aesthetic and artistic effects. Codes are internalized structure that explain the message of a story through characteristic features. Author's code works with meaning that the readers then decode to understand the text. Some examples are Todorov's 5 literary codes of fiction. American literary critic Jonathan Kohler claims that literature only consists of literary conventions that readers use to interpret the meaning of the text. He believes that a reader should contextualize the text for a better understanding of it. He also believes that readers gain increased literary competence through experience, which then allows them to understand the text on a more broad lens. He believes that understanding more literary structures prompts readers to search for underlying meaning within the text. Now on to Maddie.
So deconstruction is essentially a theory within post-structuralism, which is the extension and critique of structuralism. And it is used in critical analysis where it rejects structuralist emphasis on objectivity and comprehension and instead focuses on the flexibility of meaning. Jacques Derrida emphasized exposing metaphysical assumptions and contradictions in philosophy and literature, thus coining deconstructionism. And Mikhail Foucault claims that the power still resides within the author, although that a capitalist world of power does shape the author's influence and therefore the text. Deconstruction recognizes the textual features stressed in structuralism, but is more concerned with the rhetorical instead of the grammatical, and so therefore a text does not have an identifiable meaning, but rather contradicts itself and is disorderly. And although meaning does exist, it cannot be objectified through a text. And so, therefore, this represents nihilism and anarchy in text because of a disbelief in absolute and definable meaning. And so, essentially, deconstructionism leaves meaning up to the reader and up for interpretation. And Jacques Derrida coined the term logocentrism, which means that logos, which is reason or speech, is the primary signifier, while the text is the secondary signifier.
Dialogics can be seen in The Death of the Salesman, where every character's struggles are developed, such as Willie, Biff, Happy, Linda, and Charlie's, throughout the whole story, giving all of them a voice and true focus that is given throughout their ideologies, rather than focusing on one character.
A real-world application of this. When a reporter asked about a smooth transition to power, Secretary of State Pompeo exclaimed, "A smooth transition to a second Trump administration," despite the clear victory of President-elect Joe Biden. This is an example of when the sender sends a message using context and code to make contact with the receiver. The receiver here is the citizens of the United States who voted for Joe Biden. His message here is that there will only be a smooth transition of power if Trump is named president. Therefore, there will not be a smooth transition of power as he was not. And this is all described in the linguistic model by Roman Jacobson. Thank you.
Bye.